And then at the end, we'll have time for questions. So after this session, hopefully you will be able to define resiliency, state 3 ways to build resiliency skills, and identify a technique for stress reduction. So this first question, what is resiliency? I think this is a word that we hear a lot, and maybe we're not exactly sure what it means. But resiliency is an important life skill that many of us use without even realize that we are using it. So the definition of resilience is the process of adapting well in the face of adversity, trauma, threats, or significant sources of stress, such as family and relationship problems. So if you're having issues with a significant other, or if you're having some tension in your family, health issues could be a significant source of stress, whether that be your health issues or health issues of a loved one, or financial stressors. So maybe if money is a little bit tight or you're struggling financially, that could also be a source of significant stress. So this is probably more of what we're familiar with when we think of resilience, the idea of facing and overcoming challenges or bouncing back from adversity, basically not letting these adverse events or difficult situations control the outcome of our life. So being resilient helps you to get through difficult situations. It empowers you to grow, and it can help you to improve your life along the way. This is an important question to think about. When something goes wrong, how do you react? So if something is not going the way that you expected it to go, or if you're experiencing difficulties or problems, how do you react to that situation? Are you the type of person who has trouble getting past things, or are you the type of person who learns and grows and can move on? There are a few things that I think it's important for us to know about resilience and being resilient people. The first is that being resilient does not mean that a person will never experience any difficulty or distress or any problems in their life. Unfortunately, just because we are resilient, that's not going to protect us from things popping up um, throughout our life on multiple occasions. Emotional pain and sadness are common for people dealing with trauma and adversity. So just because you may think of yourself as a very resilient person, it doesn't mean that you're not going to experience any difficulties or stress in your life. You will be better able to deal with those difficulties and get through those times in your life, but it doesn't make you immune to them. The second thing is that resilience is a skill, not a trait. It is not something that we are born with. It is something that develops over time. So it involves behaviors, thoughts, and actions. And like any other skill, it can be worked on and improved. So increasing your resilience is just like building a muscle. It takes time and intentionality. Now that we know what resilience is and what it looks like, so resilient people are able to overcome the difficulties and the challenges in their life and grow from those and move and be better people for it. What does it look like if maybe you aren't a resilient person or you're lacking resilience? So if you lack resilience, you may dwell on problems. You spend a lot of time thinking about your problems. You're kind of stuck. You feel like you're not really moving anywhere. And this isn't going to make your problems go away. You may feel victimized. You may become overwhelmed. And you may turn to unhealthy coping mechanisms. So if I am stressed out from a situation that's going on in my life, I'm dwelling on this, I can't see, past the present. I'm kind of stuck in this situation, in this position. It can become very overwhelming. And it may lead me to start coping with the situation in unhealthy ways. It could be abuse of alcohol, substance abuse. Maybe it's even unhealthy eating habits, so binging on junk food. Things that are not going to help me and may actually make my situation worse. So why does resilience matter? What why do we even need to know what resilience is, or why should we even worry about building resiliency skills? Well, resiliency keeps you functioning both physically and psychologically during these adverse times or difficult situations. It can protect you from various mental health conditions, including depression and anxiety. And if you have a current mental health condition, it can help improve your ability to cope. So I think, thinking about right now with COVID-19, if we as a community lack resilience, we could look back at COVID-19 as something that defeats us instead of making us stronger. Okay? So I typically like to throw in some kind of little story time during my presentations, just because I feel like it's always nice to have a real life example. I'm sure that as we defined resilience and we talked about some of those things that make people resilient, that you could think of specific situations in your life in which you had to be resilient, or situations in which once you overcame, you felt stronger, or you learned something, you grew as a person. So I like to have little story times in my presentations, and today I'm going to be talking about Florence Chadwick. So Florence is a swimmer, and in 1952, she made her first attempt to swim the Catalina. And she didn't do it alone. She had a support system. She had her coach. She had her mom cheering her on as she swam hour after hour in frigid cold water. But unfortunately, she was unable to successfully complete the swim. She actually wasn't very far from making it to the shoreline, but she was unable to finish. And instead of letting her failure knock her down or keep her from moving towards her goal or working towards that goal, because swimming the Catalina was her goal, instead of letting that failure keep her down or staying in that funk, she learned from her mistakes. She continued to work towards her goal. She made adjustments. And just 2 months later, she was able to not only finish the Catalina, but also eclipse the men's record by 2 hours. So I really love telling this story just because it is so inspiring. It can be very easy to feel disappointed after we fail, or if we're in a bad place, but not letting that disappointment keep us in that bad place, but instead being resilient, rising up, and moving forward to really get to where we want to be. Okay, so speaking of building resilience, like I said earlier, it is a skill. So it is something that we can work on and improve. And these are the four main components that we are going to look at today. So we have connection, wellness, purpose, and healthy thinking. Again, resilience is like building a muscle. It takes time and intentionality. So if you are wanting to work on your own resilience skills, you may want to think about starting with one of these four components. So the first is connections, and connections are extremely important. We as humans really thrive with interacting with other people, and connections are very important for our day-to-day lives. So with connections, you want to prioritize relationships that you feel have love and trust. You definitely want to be prioritizing those relationships in which you feel supported accepted, and encouraged both during good and bad times. Um, Sometimes when you go through a struggle, you really find out who your friends are. And so if you have had those moments, you want to rely on the people who were there for you in both good and bad times. You also want to prioritize relationships with people who maybe you see as role models, and then again, offer encouragement and reassurance. And it's so important that you establish good, healthy, positive relationships, because these are the people who are going to make you feel like you're not alone when you're going through difficult times. It is not uncommon to feel alone whenever you are in the midst of the difficult situation, but having connections is extremely important. Along with maybe one-on-one connections, it's also important to have group connections, and consider joining a group. So it could be a faith-based community group, a local organization, a civic group, just an opportunity for you to connect with a bunch of people who share common interest. And groups provide a lot of support, and depending on the group and what you do in the group, it can also give you a sense of purpose or joy. I know that there are a lot of online groups, and that could be really important during this time since we're practicing social distancing. So there are a lot of online communities in which you can connect and reach out to other people, provide them support, receive support yourself. The next component to building resilience is fostering wellness. So with fostering wellness, we really want to focus on three things, and that's taking care of our bodies, practicing mindfulness, and avoiding negative outlets. So we're going to start with taking care of our bodies. This first bullet, self-care. I think because self-care is such a buzzword, sometimes we tend to kind of just not pay as much attention to it, but self-care is a legitimate practice for mental health and building resilience. And it's extremely important during stressful times that we are practicing self-care to take care of ourselves, not only mentally, but also physically. Proper nutrition, so making sure that we are giving our body the nutrients that it needs. I have been the person in the past who turns to food, those unhealthy coping mechanisms. That has been me in the past, turning to junk food or fast food just because I'm so stressed out and it's such easy access, or it's comfort food and it makes me feel good when I'm feeling down or when I have a problem. But giving our bodies the proper nutrients, eating a healthy, balanced diet is really important. Another thing, getting a lot of sleep, or getting enough sleep, I should say. When you are stressed out or you're very worried about something, it can be hard to get good sleep, let alone enough sleep. But our bodies need sleep. We need that time to rest and recover. And so making sure that even if we're in the midst of a crisis or whatever it is that we're going through, that we are getting plenty of sleep. And then also regular exercise. Exercise is not only good for your physical health, but it can definitely help with your mental health as well, with feelings of stress and anxiety and depression. So strengthening your body to adapt to stress and reduce the toll of emotions that anxiety and depression take on the body is extremely important, because stress is just as much physical as it is emotional. So making sure that we're taking care of ourselves physically and mentally during stressful times. The second thing that we can do to foster wellness is practice mindfulness. Mindfulness is being present in the moment. And I think that if you haven't been doing things like journaling, yoga, or spiritual practices, now would be a great opportunity to start doing so. I have told myself plenty of times that I want to start doing yoga or I want to start journaling, and I never seem to find the time. And now that we are going through this time of social distancing, I have so much time. And so I have started practicing yoga, but finding something that can help you be in the moment and focus on the now. With mindfulness, it is important that you focus on the positive aspects in your life. So think about the things that are going well or the things that you're grateful for. Maybe it's your health. Maybe it's that you are financially stable at this time. Maybe it's that you have a really great support system. Whatever it is, finding something every day to be grateful for or something that is positive in your life. And the last thing we can do to foster wellness is avoid negative outlets. So again, earlier I talked about unhealthy coping mechanisms. Some people will turn to alcohol or drugs to deal with problems whenever they want to avoid them. And we don't want to do this. Working on these problems or trying to bury these problems with substance abuse is like trying to put a Band-Aid over a deep wound, right? It's not going to take care of the problem at all. And so it's more important that we learn how to manage our stress instead of trying to get rid of it completely. Stress is something that's going to occur in our lives multiple times, and it's important that we learn techniques for management so that whenever it comes up again, we'll be more prepared to deal with it instead of just turning back to negative habits that aren't really going to be helpful to us. So the third component to building resiliency is finding purpose. And one of the things that we can do to find purpose is help others. When we help others, we get that sense of purpose. We foster self-worth, we connect and build connections, and sometimes we're tangibly helping. And all of these things can empower to grow in resilience. So helping others usually makes us feel a lot better about ourselves, which is not why we do it, but it just happens to be a benefit of that. It can help us to connect with other people and definitely give us a sense of purpose. So personally, I know when I was in college, I would volunteer with Big Event. I went to A&M, so I would volunteer with Big Event every spring. And it's usually in, I think it's like March or April. So it's right around the time that you're about to have to start studying for finals and stuff. And it really did help. It made me feel really good to help others. And I felt that I had a purpose when I was doing that. And that really helped me in those stressful times. Other ways that you can find purpose are to be proactive, move towards your goals, and seek self-discovery. So with being proactive, you're not avoiding your problems. You're taking action. A lot of the stress that we feel in stressful situations is lack of control. And if we focus on the things that we can't control, we're not making any progress or moving forward. So it's important to focus on things that you can control. And with taking action, do what you can do. And that goes with moving towards your goals. So having set goals is great. It can really help you to feel like you have a purpose in this world, to be moving towards things that you want or things that you want to accomplish in life. But it's important that we set realistic goals. If we are setting goals that are not attainable, we are setting ourselves up for failure. And so we want to make sure that we are setting realistic goals and doing something regularly to move towards those goals or to make progress towards those goals. So if you have a goal, maybe for 10 years in your future, but you have no realistic plan, then that goal is simply a dream. It's not really a goal because you're not actively working towards it. So even if you're doing something small every couple of weeks, it's nice to feel like you're making progress and you're working towards being where you want to be or becoming who you want to become. And then finally, seek self-discovery and see the good. It can be very difficult to see the good in situations when you're in the middle of them. But it's important that you try to find the silver lining or try to find the positive in anything that you're going through. So people often find that they grow in some respect as a result of the struggle. So even if it's difficult to find a positive when you're in the midst of it, once you come out on the other side, still try to work towards finding the positive in that situation. So the final or fourth component of building resiliency skills is healthy thinking. How you think can play a significant part in how you feel and also how resilient you are when you're faced with obstacles. So the first thing that you want to think about when you are working on healthy thinking is keeping things in perspective. Um, when you're stressed out or you're in a difficult situation, it can be very hard to keep things in perspective. You want to identify any irrational thinking tendencies. So are you the person who catastrophizes difficulties? Are you the person who assumes that the world is out to get you? If you are, try to adopt balanced, more realistic thinking patterns. Instead, tell yourself, what happened does not indicate how my future is going to go, or, I am not helpless. Okay, so try to develop more realistic thinking patterns and avoid seeing the crisis as an impossible problem. The second thing that you want to consider when working on healthy thinking is accepting change. Change is inevitable. Nothing stays the same, right? And so learning to accept that change is just simply a part of life, and that we're going to have to learn how to focus on the things that we can change or the things that we do have some control over, and not fixating on the things that we can't. When things change, you may have to reevaluate your goals. So that's why it's so important to have that plan. Maybe you still have that goal, but because a wrench got thrown in your plan, maybe you have to reevaluate things or reevaluate how you're going to reach that goal. But understanding that change is not always a bad thing, and not letting it control your thinking or turn you into a person who is having negative thoughts all the time. Maintain a hopeful outlook. This can be extremely hard when things are not going the way that you want them to, but it is important to keep an optimistic outlook and know that good things are to come. And then the final thing that we can do to work on or consider when we're working on healthy thinking is learn from your past. So look at your past and ask who or what has helped me before, and what did I learn from that situation? So once you get out of that situation that you're in, or whatever it is that you've had to bounce back from, right? And you developed some skills during that time, or you learned some things, or you grew somehow. I like to think that those things go into a little toolbox. And as you go through life, you just keep acquiring more tools. And with each situation that you come upon, you're more equipped to deal with that situation than you were years before, because you've had all of these experiences and you've grown and you've learned. So use those things that you've learned or you've gained from past experiences to help you in current or future ones. Some other factors that you can develop in yourself to help with resiliency are a positive view of yourself. And we're going to talk about confidence in your strengths and abilities, and then also skill development. So with a positive view of self, you want to recognize your inner strength. What are your best personality traits? What are things that you are good at? Are you a very positive person? Are you kind? Are you confident? Do you have a great sense of humor? Are you very empathetic? What are some things that you feel are strengths of yours? It's important to have these things in mind because on any given day, if I ask any of the women or girls that I work with, what are 5 things that you don't like about yourself? I could get those 5 things in like 10 seconds because it's easy for us to think about all of the things we don't like about ourselves. But when I ask them, give me just 3 things that you like about yourself or that you feel like you're good at, they struggle because they haven't ever taken the time to really think about these things. And when you are down or you're in a bad situation or you're stressed out, you want to be able to have those positive things to remind you who you are and all the great things about yourself to help you build up that confidence and let you know that you're going to be fine and you're going to get to the other side of this. And so creating this list of things and knowing these things before you ever get into a bad situation can be extremely helpful. So if you're not sure what your strengths are, you can take this free quiz and they will let you know what your character strengths are. So that is pretty cool to have and it's pretty fun. So having this positive view of yourself goes hand in hand with self-esteem, respect, and confidence. And there are a few things that we can do to build these in ourselves. So the first is stop comparing. Stop comparing yourself to other people. Stop comparing yourself to other people's success. Make that list of things that you really like about yourself and have that on hand and keep adding to it as you learn more about yourself. It can be very hard to not compare when we turn on the TV and we see all these models and actors and actresses and we get on social media and we see all these pictures and we think, oh, I would really love to have her legs or I would really love to have her hair. It can be so hard, but we have to realize that they're probably doing the same thing. And some of these images that we're seeing are not even real images. They've been touched up or enhanced. Okay, so learning to accept and love ourselves the way that we are and not compare ourselves to other people. Remembering your good deeds. So remembering the good things that you've done for other people, whether it be volunteering or helping out a family member, just remembering times that you helped other people and it made you feel really good about yourself. Forgiving yourself and learning from your mistakes. So we all make mistakes in life, but it's important that we learn to forgive ourselves, learn from that mistake, and then move forward. Accepting your strengths and your weaknesses. I think this is really important. I like to think of it this way. I know things that I'm really good at, and I know things that are not my strong suits, right? My weaknesses. But I try to reach out to people who can help me with those weaknesses. And eventually, I want those weaknesses to move over to my strengths list. I don't want them to ever hold me back or prevent me from doing things. So I think it's important that you accept both because once you accept what your weaknesses are, then you can work on them and try to make them new strengths. And then finally, surround yourself with positive, healthy people. I am definitely a believer that the energy that you put out is the energy that you're going to attract. And so if you feel that you don't have the most positive, uplifting, supportive people in your life, start being that person for other people. And maybe that will rub off on the people who are already in your life, or maybe it'll attract some new people to your life. But you always want to have people in your life who are supporting you and who are encouraging you and who are building you up. Because again, thinking about connections and making those, prioritizing those positive, healthy relationships, that's what's going to be able to help you get through. Well, it's going to build your confidence, but it's also going to help you get through those difficult situations. So the second thing, when we talk about other factors, would be skill development. So know skills that you need in challenging situations and develop them when things are going well. If you think about a fire, if there was a building on fire, you wouldn't want the fire department to start working on training and learning how to put out the fire once the fire was already started. You would want the fire department to already be trained so that when the fire happens, they're prepared and they can go take care of it. And that's the same thing with skills, skill development. So know the things that you need to get through challenging situations. It could be problem solving skills, communication skills, stress management. And you want to work on these things while things are good and going well, so that whenever problems do come up, your skills are developed. And so you're fully able to use those skills to get through whatever it is that you need to more effectively and more quickly. Okay. So with skill development, know how you react. When I get super stressed out, what do I tend to do? What is my first instinct? And seek guidance. There are many people that you could ask, or even resources that you could utilize to kind of seek some guidance. Okay, well, I know that when I get super stressed out, I have a hard time sleeping and all these things, and I don't really have any technique or any tools that I use to manage that stress. So I'm going to speak to my friends. I'm going to speak to professionals. I'm going to utilize the internet or other resources and see what are some techniques that I could be using when I get super stressed out. And then making a plan. I think I should try these things out and see what works for me and kind of craft that technique and then be ready to change. So one of the things that we use during our stress management presentation is this My Plan for Stress Management worksheet. It gives you an opportunity to try different stress management techniques and see how you feel about them. So maybe you want to try yoga, maybe you want to try meditation, maybe you want to exercise, maybe it is self-care, bubble bath, whatever it may be, trying out different things while things are good or well, and then working on them. So maybe I try out yoga at the end of a stressful day, and I'm like, wow, that really helped me to unwind and relax. Maybe that's something that I want to keep trying. So it's important that we have some kind of plan in place. And asking for help. Being more resilient takes time and practice. Speaking with a mental health provider can give you guidance you need to improve resiliency and mental well-being. If you feel that you're not making progress or you don't know where to start, that is a great place to start, is speaking with a mental health provider. And I think during this time especially, a lot of us are experiencing maybe feelings that we haven't ever really experienced, or we're going through something that is very traumatic. Again, we really thrive on interaction and connectedness, and having to stay home and social distance and not interact in the ways that we're used to can really take a toll on us. And so I have been reading that it's expected that mental health conditions like depression and anxiety are going to be on the uprise during this pandemic and after. And so it's very important that we learn how to ask for help when we need it and not be afraid to reach out to get that help. And sometimes it doesn't even always have to be a mental health provider. If you really feel like you need it, definitely do it. There's no shame in that. But sometimes we just need help from our family. Maybe it's, hey mom, I've just had a really bad day. I would love if we could FaceTime so that I could see you and we could talk, right? It could be asking for help from anyone, but just knowing that when you do that, you're building up yet another skill to put in your toolbox. So in order to embrace resiliency, we have to transform and grow physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. With a mentally, learn about yourself and your family. So sometimes if we find ourselves frequently, battling with anxiety or battling with depression, sometimes it could be something that runs in our family. So knowing our family history is really important for taking care of ourselves and being able to grow and build resiliency. And then taking time to explore yourself, explore your beliefs, who you are, where you are in life, and where you want to be. So, quick review. Find meaning in life and work towards your goals. Take care of yourself emotionally, physically. Learn from your experiences and use the things that you learn to help you navigate new things that are going to pop up in life that may be difficult. Remain hopeful and work on having a positive, optimistic outlook on life. Accept and anticipate change because it is a part of life. Be proactive and take action. Do what you can to work towards where you want to be. And then add to your skills toolbox. Work on stress management and relaxation techniques. Work on communicating. Work on problem solving. Okay, so I am, if you have any questions, feel free to unmute yourself and ask at this time. I have added our social media pages for our website, our Facebook, our Instagram, and our Twitter. We post different health education posts on these platforms. We also post information on upcoming events. So this is another way for you to keep up with what we are going to be doing next. And then if you have any questions that maybe pop up later, you can always email these questions or comments to healtheducator@thewomensfund.org. Okay, my chat popped up, but okay. Does anyone have any questions at this time?
Yeah, so I can read it to you. It says, do you have any recommendations on where to find online support groups? Hi, everyone. I'm Anna. I'm with the Women's Fund, too.
Anna, do you have any recommendations for online support?
That's such a broad, it depends what kind of things you're looking for. I know you touched on a lot of things, Kayla. What kind of groups or just in general? Because I know
Trauma.
Okay. I think that's something that we can find and send via email if you want to. You can also send us, if you want to send us your email privately to us, either to me or to Kayla, and we can get those sources to you.
Yes. And I think
Okay.
a great way to start would just be getting on Google and typing in trauma support groups, whether you want those to be online or if you want them to be face-to-face groups after we get through all of this social distancing and stuff. I think you could, put in trauma support groups, Houston, or wherever you are. And I think that could be a great place to start, but we will definitely, if you send us your email privately, we will do a little research and see what we can find to help you.
Yeah, and I think one of my favorite resources that I definitely use whenever I'm trying to think about social services out there for people that I deal with, or even whenever I'm talking to like friends, I think United Way has an awesome hotline where you can call and ask. Is it 211 or 311? I can let me look it up right now. And so they're amazing because what you can do, you basically call and there's an operator and you tell them a little bit about, hey, this is what I'm looking for. And they themselves already have a database where they can locate, these are the people that you should call based on what you've told us, if it's difficult to search on Google. And I think that's something that a lot of Houstonians don't know about and don't take advantage of, especially if you're also working with clients that have experienced trauma. I think that's a great way to start. And then I got your email. Thank you.
Okay, so if there are no other questions at this time, remember you can always email us at healtheducator@thewomensfund.org if something comes up or you do have any questions. We will be sending out a survey, so we would really appreciate if you could take the survey, a quick little survey, just to give us a little feedback on the presentation. We have another presentation next week on the 15th at 2 o'clock over positive thinking, and Anna will be leading that discussion. So
Yay.
thank you so much for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you next time.
Bye,
Bye.
everyone.